Hello, everybody. Easy E, Eric Bischoff, co-host of 83 Weeks each and every Monday, your favorite podcast. But my favorite podcast right now is Counted Out with Mike and Tyler. Great to be here, gentlemen.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Sealed of Approve, Counted Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and I am joined, as always, by the one and only Mojito Mike. Hard Mike, sorry, I forgot that was the gimmick this year because of your Mike's Hard Iced Teas. It pains me to say that every time. And we have a very special guest today. We are joined by the owner of Barrie Wrestling. We love him to death, even though he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. We've got Mr. Shawn Gibson here. Shawn, thanks for jumping on with us, man.
Absolutely. I was looking forward to it all week, so this is good.
So before we get into some wrestling talk, what's the deal with your Steelers this year? Are we looking all right? Are you feeling good about them?
Well, if you call winning the Super Bowl feeling good, then yes, we feel great. This is it.
This is
just another spot on the. You can always tell how they're gonna do. They brought in some moving trucks, took out the old trophy case, and they just brought in a new one with an extra spot. So that tells you all you need to know.
Our Bengals probably lent us their trophy case. It's looking a little bare these days, but I think this is the year. I'm feeling good about the Bengals this year. We got our squad coming back. I think
I got to be honest, that's probably the first time I've ever heard someone use that sentence. That's really impressive. It's something else, man.
I
don't know if you can convince me or you, but
this is a good year, man. Joey B's ready to roll.
Sure.
And we're ready to roll with Barrie Wrestling.
How about that's adorable.
How about this for a segue, right? We're ready to roll with Barrie Wrestling on Saturday, September the 9th for Back to School 9, 49 Ferris Lane. Tickets are going fast. Front row sold out. Second row sold out as well.
Front row sold out. Second row has right now, whatever. It's there's 5 seats left for second row. Yeah, they're flying.
Well, let's plug that right now. If you want tickets, you can message any of the Barrie Wrestling social medias at Barrie Wrestling. Shawn, you can also get tickets around town if you're locally, correct?
Yeah, OMG Games and Doug Laurie Sports and Auctions.
I can tell you from personal experience, being a lifelong wrestling fan, and I don't just say this because I happen to be the ring announcer for Barrie Wrestling. You got a hell of a product going on up there, man. There's really something special what's going on up here in Barrie, not just from an in-ring standpoint, but just from an overall standpoint in general. Do you take a lot of pride in the fact that Barrie just carries so much respect, not only from the in-ring, but people genuinely want to be here because of the family atmosphere?
Yeah, I do. And it took me a while to. I was always, I think I said it before, I was always the guy that was like, we're just the little company and we're just Barrie Wrestling. But it was the talent started, I would see them choose our shows over other shows, and they would come up, and people from Toronto were coming up, and it started. You started realizing it, because I figured we would always be that little family show. There's different promotions around Ontario. Some have that cool appeal. Some have that just strictly family. And I feel like we kind of have both. We attract the families, but we have that crossover appeal. So yeah, the last little while I've taken a lot of pride in it, and I'm really happy with what we're doing.
Yeah, I think I can speak on behalf of you here, Mike, as well. When we first started working with you guys, we're coming on our 2-year anniversary now, correct, Mike, with Barrie?
Back to school 7, sir.
Yeah. That's where we started right after the pandemic. But as soon as we got there, we didn't really know what to expect. This was new territory for us. We hadn't really done any work with any companies before, and within the first hour that we were there, we just felt comfortable. Everyone made us feel welcome. You were great to us. The boys welcomed us in, and the whole crew, and it's just grown since there. And we love coming up, man. So thank you for everything, Shawn, because we
No,
really
thank you.
love working with you guys.
No, it's great, and it is such a team effort. Like you guys have jumped on board, but Brian and Shelly and Jim and Eric and Jeff, like from the get go. And I mean, it's nothing without my wife from the beginning. She keeps me calm and sane, and but it's the talent too, right? Like they've got say in what we're doing. They know what works and what doesn't. So it's just that open dialogue with everybody. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I'm going to throw it to you here, and then I want to kind of dive into a little bit of Shawn's wrestling fandom after that.
Oh,
100%. Let's talk about, you brought out that locker room of yours. There's something really special about that locker room. And I'm pretty sure, like, we see it on a regular basis because we have the privilege to be there before the bell rings and to see everything on a family level. And we see how they interact with each other. We see how they interact with you, how they interact with us. Then the fans come in. I feel the fans see something that we also see. They see something really special with that locker room. You don't need this is kind of cool. What I love about Barrie, you don't need to be bringing in the big names, the established stars every show. Sure, you'll get the odd Josh Alexander here and there. You might bring in Trent Seven, once in a while, but you don't need a big name every show to fill that church. I'm not putting down the shows that need to do that, because shows because that's their thing. That's what they need to do. That's what they want
absolutely.
to do. Barrie's never needed to do that. That church gets filled every time I'm there without a so-called big star.
Yeah.
And it has to do with how special that locker room is. There's something about that locker room. Mike Jeffries said it the last time he was on this show. He said that you choose your locker room very specifically. It doesn't matter how good of a worker you are. It doesn't matter how much the fans want to see you. If you're not a fit to that locker room, Shawn doesn't want you in there. This is exact words from Mike Jeffries. How do you pick who fits in that locker room?
To be honest, thanks for that. Yeah, it's true. It's the most important thing to me is, and I'll ask other talent, because talent's kind of, they choose. If a young kid wants to get in, I shoot a message to a couple of the guys and I'll say, what are they like? Are they working hard? Yeah, give them a shot. So it's always reaching out. Someone reaches out to me, I'll usually reach out to a couple of the trusted guys that I know, and I'll say, what's this person like? And with me, they don't even start with in ring. Like they just start with, they're good for the back. They're good for the locker room. They'll fit in. Then they'll say, yeah, and in ring's great too. I rely on these guys a lot because I don't know all the talent. I don't travel around Ontario. I don't go to show to show. Sometimes I reach out to a promoter. There's a couple of promoters I trust. I'll say, what do they like in the back? And they'll say, I've had a promoter say, we use them, but I'll be honest, I don't know if they'd fit in your locker room. And I guess what they're saying is, we'll use them because we're using them sparingly, but we, like with our locker room, it's you come in, you're family, like you're part of the family. And if you don't fit in, then you're not here. And that's not to say that people that aren't here right now are gone because they didn't fit in. Some are scheduling conflicts or whatnot, but It's pretty clear to see names that have come and gone over the years that the attitude wasn't working and they were gone. We want a comfortable locker room. We want a respectful locker room because that bleeds out into the crowd. Like you said, the crowd realizes it. The crowd can
100%.
So yeah, it's definitely got to be. You definitely have to be a good person, and that's the thing too, is you can have different ideas on whatever political, social, whatever background. It doesn't matter as long as you're respectful, and so far everybody is.
So that shows 100%, even from the talent. We Tyler and I have talked to the talent, many members of your locker room, who have told us, so and so promotion might pay me double what Shawn does, but I'll go to Shawn's show first because I know I'm leaving that show feeling good about what I did that night. We've been to other shows where we see guys leaving with a big envelope at the end of the night, but with a frown on their face. They're not happy with what happened at the night. We've been to a lot of shows like that. I've never, and this is not, please don't think, everybody who knows me knows I don't kiss ass. I don't bring you on my show to kiss your ass. If I'm telling you something, it's because this is 100% how I feel. I've never seen anybody be a talent fan. Nobody leaves Barrie unhappy. It just doesn't happen.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And the pay thing, actually, it's funny, and I won't mention names, but like one of our longtime people, they cracked a joke about something, and I kind of went, "Wait, what do you mean? What do you make? Like, what are you making? What's your rate?" Because they've gotten raises and stuff, but they're like, "It doesn't matter." And I was like, "Well, what?" And they said, "Well, I usually do this," and I was like, "Why did like?" Okay, well, let's figure this out. They're like, "Nah, this is home. Don't worry about it."
Because they don't need that fat envelope
Yeah,
to work for you.
it's really, and I
That
think,
shows something.
yeah, and it's the fact too that it's one of the reasons we got IWTV was these guys and girls earned it. Like they a long time ago earned it, and I was just worried to pull the trigger on that kind of an expense, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, they deserved it, and it's helped out huge. We've got people from the East Coast of the U.S. messaging all the time to come in. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed some of the talent that you brought in from all over as well. I kind of call it like the Mark Wheeler tour, because Wheeler was getting all the guys that were coming in and just bangers they were putting on. People that I
It's
wasn't even
unreal.
too familiar with, and I'm just like Vinny Pacifico is a name that comes to
Yeah,
mind. He
good
was
guy.
fantastic, and
Yeah.
Mortar, I believe his name was. He was good
Mortar,
too.
yeah, Mortar was great. Like, we want to get them back in,
You
and we've got people come. We got Bobby Orlando will be back for a few shows. Leo Sparrow, who's making a name out on the East Coast, he'll be in here in a couple shows away. So, and then there's the West Coast of Canada. I mean, that's just booming. And so we've got some talks of some talent coming in from the West Coast, probably in the fall and winter. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's super fun now to be able to bring people in that nobody's seen. So just to mix it up.
No, I absolutely love that. And we mentioned a couple names. I just kind of want to circle back because it's not just the in-ring talent that makes everything so special up in Barrie. I want to single out people like Brian and Shelley, who, Barrie Wrestling Hall
Yeah,
of Famers. I will argue anybody to find a better photographer than Brian, just not only for his
yeah,
work, but as a human being as well, just fantastic. And
yeah,
Shelly's my tag team partner, and she's just a blast to work with, and she just adds
yeah.
this little charisma to the show too. Like, oh, it's just fantastic.
They're yeah. And actually, I got a little emotional a few weeks back. I was rewatching the Christmas show we did during COVID,
Yes,
and
it's one of my favorite shows
we
you
had
ever did.
Santa at the beginning. It was so fun, right? And we had Santa at the beginning because I was watching it because the Daniel Garcia thing and I was making a joke, like we had him as a sports entertainer before he was sport because he made that joke. But then I remember watching it, and Santa did his whole thing, and at the very end, Jim Lowe, who's also just legend, Jim Lowe said to Santa, like, "Hey, are we on the good list here?" And Santa read off everybody's name, and he's like, "I don't know. You're on the bad list." And he said, "However, you are friends with my number one pixie, no nonsense pixie, Shelly Weiss, and it's because of Shelly you're on it." And I remember, and I would let her speak for this, but it got back to me that, I mean, you got to remember that was the heart of COVID. That was,
Yeah.
we weren't seeing each other. We weren't, it didn't feel like society was together. And I got told that meant a lot. And I got emotional knowing how emotional she got. And that's family. Something happens with Amanda and I, or to them, we shoot each other a message to prop each other up, right? So yeah, they're the heart and soul of the place for sure. Like you said, Brian's just the best photographer, man. Just the
Yeah,
best.
he's the only person that can take a picture of me where I don't want to just immediately throw up looking at it. So
Let's walk through that time frame for a minute. You're talking about the heart of COVID. Could you walk us through something very special that I think you did during that period of time? Can you walk us through your idea and how you came up with and executed the All Ontario Cup?
Yeah, that was so that started up again. It was talking to talent, and the talent was having a hard time. I mean, if you look around Ontario indie wrestling, there's already a lot of mental health issues, right? A lot of people are dealing with that, and during COVID, it was something else. At first, it started. We were going to do a thing. It was like buried wrestling, and it was going to be this pandemic looking graphic, and we were starting the ball on that, and then Vertigo started Backyard Pro, so we pulled away from doing it. I was just trying to do something to keep people busy, but
Right.
I really wanted to find a way to do something where we could all get together. You know, a lot of the talent had the barn. They had the barn going on down there in Schaumburg area. And they said, "Can we use your ring to train?" I was like, "Yeah, use the ring." So then we thought we've got a ring, we've got a building that fits. You know, we can separate, we can stay secluded, and why don't we just have a tournament? And I thought, I wonder if anybody would, you know, pay to see this. You know, get a link for it or some kind of sponsors, and it flew. Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was just a lot of fun. We just wanted to put something on that showed everybody that we're not backing down. Like, we did it safe. We were allowed to do what we were doing, but we just weren't going to be stopped. Because you got to remember, the U.S. was open, but our talent couldn't get across, and nobody could come here. But the U.S. talent, they were down there working shows. And they were calling our guys, you know, they were saying to Canadian wrestlers, like, you know, if you wanted to wrestle, you could, no excuses. And it's like, you don't actually understand what's going on up here. We can't leave. We can't cross the border. So it just gave our talent a place to shine and do some stuff. And it was a ton of fun.
I think it might be safe to say that could be a bittersweet event for you, Shawn, because it was such a awesomely executed event. But then you got stuck with us, and we haven't left you ever since. So
it was. It kind of hurts. It kind of hurts a little bit.
Although I will say, Clutch Jesse V did bring it down for the counted out bracket. So you know,
right, he did.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was also one of the last. I don't know if it was one of the. Yeah, it would have been around one of the last shows with Hacker Wrestling, right? Who's making great progress.
That's right.
Of course he is, because he's not going to give up. But he was fantastic, as he always is, but he was fantastic that day. He was so funny.
I love Hacker. So Hacker was one of the first guys that kind of hooked me into the indie wrestling world. You know, back in his, like, the Eric Young days. Like, I remember I watched Hacker and Eric Young fight in Orangeville at some, like, barn. Like, it was just random stuff when I was in high school, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm happy to hear he's doing well. It was great to see him showcase there as well. And that's some of my early indie fandom, but let's talk about your fandom a little bit. I know we've talked about this just a little bit, but you're a big Arn Anderson guy, right?
Huge Arn Anderson guy. And growing up, I think you kind of overlooked him. I always liked him, you know, but you overlooked him because it was like Hulkamania and Ric Flair and, you know, the bigger names. But I always appreciate him. But now you look back and you're like, he was just the best. Like, I watched some of his promos. I'll watch promos of him, just randomly put them on, you know. He was he was a genius. He was so good at his craft. His interviews were solid. His in-ring was, I really like the attitude he has, that he had, was like, Flair is the champ, and my job is to protect that champ. Like that, like, I'm going to protect the group. I'm a big group guy. Like, I'm a big team guy, right? So I liked his attitude. It's not about Arn Anderson, it's about the Horseman. And I thought that was just, loved it.
That's why I always say it's the greatest horseman out of all of them.
Don't.
100%.
I like that. It's not 100%. Even a debate because he was so selfless.
Who's Mike's favorite horseman?
So this is an ongoing argument. I put Arn at number 3 for myself because Flair.
Wait, number 3 overall or number 3 horseman?
Number 3 horseman.
Like, overall, all-time horseman.
I'm a Tully guy. I have to do this.
I have to do this every week with him, Shawn.
No, I am. I gotta put Ric Flair at 1, but Tully's my number 2, man. Tully's my man. Love me some Tully Blanchard.
And that's good to hear. But here's how: there's only one thing needed to say to dispute the argument is, you can take Tully out of the group and there's still a horseman. You take Arn out, there's no horseman.
Yeah,
that's so hurtful.
Which is actually,
Look at late WCW.
Yeah. When they replaced you with Paul Roma, you weren't that much of a horseman.
I think we finally settled. Finally settled the debate, right?
Yeah, that is. You know that whole the saying, the truth hurts. I feel it, like it actually hurts. Like there's something pinching inside me right now.
I
might
will.
crash.
I will clip this and play this maybe at every point on every show. Every time you get out of line, Mike, we're gonna call you Paul Roma from
Every
now
time
on.
he mentions
Oh,
Tully, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
every
fantastic.
time. It's funny too. Just while we're talking, and when we were talking about the All Ontario Cup and what it did for you guys, it did something really cool for Mike and I as well, because of the other sponsors and stuff. But when the finals happened for the All Ontario Cup, it was one of the December Barrie shows there.
Yeah.
It was Jesse V with us, and it was Lionel Knight with Rich from Wrestling on the Rise, and we became good
yeah.
friends with Rich through
Awesome.
the
He's a good
All
guy.
Ontario
Love
Cup.
Rich.
He's a great guy, right? And it was just so
Rich is
fun.
awesome, man.
Yeah, he's incredible, and it was just so fun because I remember we had our little spot and he had his spot, and we're like cheering and booing against each other, and like just we had a great time watching that.
And we saw people doing that too, and that's what I really liked was they did that. I saw them online, and they were cheering for a bracket, and then they were cheering for someone to leave the bracket. And then I thought that was great. I thought that was a lot of fun. And you look at how you can do it again, and man, oh man, it's hard enough to put a single tiered tournament together. To put something like that again would be crazy. But the time fit, it worked, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
So we've had lots of fun moments up in Barrie, and there's got to be a lot of stress running the show, right? Like I've seen you on show day, right? Show day Shawn is running around, he's doing his thing, right? What is
show day Shawn?
The show day Shawn, yeah, that's I can always tell if I gotta ask him something. I can tell there's a certain look. I'm like, if I ask him now, he's not gonna remember, but if I ask him in 20 minutes, then we'll be good, right?
I've had I think the funniest, I mean, there's been tons, but Jeff's Iron Mike Jeffries there. I'll never forget. It was a little while ago. I was in the back office, and he was talking to me about this, that, the next, and I'm like, yeah, no, yeah, and I'm doing it, and I just remember him saying, kind of to himself, "You're not listening," and he just walked away, like he just and he was 100% right. I didn't hear a word he said, man. I was not. But you know what the stress comes from, and guys like Fuerza and Wheeler and Vertigo, they say the same. The stress comes from just me putting the stress on myself. Like it's just my own stress, right? Because it always works out. Like you look at these guys and their opponent's not there, and there's like 10 minutes till the show starts, and they're kind of like, meh, they'll be here. So the stress is usually it's not really needed, but that's just who I am.
So. And I don't know how they're so laid back about that, because I remember there was a time when I was announcing. I don't remember what show it was, but I think one of the guys was stuck in traffic, and I think they were the second match, and I didn't know if they were in the building or not.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, but like the show's going on, and I'm looking around, and I don't want to leave because I don't want to miss, the finish, and I got to do my announcement. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if they're here or not. And I just had to announce them in the dark and hope for the best that they were here, and they weren't. They ended up walking out the curtain, but I was just like, "Oh God!" Like that was nerve-wracking.
It's amazing how it happens, right? And then the shows they come together, and that's when people say, "Oh, Shawn, you put on the best shows, or you put on great shows, or and it's like, no, like I'm not trying to be humble, or oh, give me more credit, but it's everyone, because like without those guys, because oftentimes I've heard of some promotions where, like the promoter, and they have every right to do this, but the promoter's like, this is what you're doing. This is it. That's it. And I don't do, like, I'll say to guys, hey man, this is what I want to do. And what I do now, what I try to do, I'll say, this is where we got to get to. Get me there. I don't care other than that. Because they're the ones that do this every weekend. They travel all over Ontario, US, a lot of them in the UK now, but they're the ones that they have a feel if that's going to work. So yeah, you got to rely on each other for it.
Well, and I think that's appreciated too, like as a performer, to have a blank canvas and be like, just get here and draw whatever picture, paint whatever picture you want along the way. Like that's definitely something that I'm sure is appreciated by a lot of people.
For sure. Yeah. It's a good way to work.
So there's obviously, the creative process behind everything as well. Do you look back on maybe like certain, angles that you thought about that you're just like, damn, like that was awesome. Like that made you feel good, or maybe even the flip side where it's like, this is going to be the best angle. And it just went over like,
and that's a thread with like Jim and I, like Jeff, like I said earlier before we started, like Jeff kind of started later with us. So Jim and I'll fill in things, but two things. So I'll give you one of each. Is this the one that I'm the most proud of, that because some of them happened by just happened, right, or someone else came up with it, or but the early days of Vertigo, and there was that we envisioned that's something I envisioned. I was like, this is what we're gonna do. This is, and it happened exactly how I wanted to happen. The only difference is he did so well with it that it happened about 2 to 3 months before I thought it would, right? Like he got the fans behind him is insane. As far as angles, like there was there's one angle. I had this thing. I don't even care if somebody uses it. I don't know why they'd want it. But early on, I had this idea and I was gonna do this gimmick where Jim Lowe was like, buddy, I'd have walked out if you did this. But it was gonna be that it was gonna be a luchador. His manager was gonna introduce him and say that, disregard, he's going through some things, but he is a luchador and he's the greatest masked wrestler out of Mexico, and yada yada yada. And when he came out, he wasn't going to have a mask on, but he thought he had a mask on. And so he was like, this whole thing was his manager was going to be like, hey, ref, watch it. He's pulling the mask. And don't worry, buddy, you got a mask on. And like, eventually was going to lead to like a hair versus mask match. And he was going to lose. It just this whole thing. And I remember telling somebody once, and they're like, the hell you are doing that with me. You are not doing that. I'm not. And I thought it was going to be great. I think it's great.
I'm not going to argue with you, man. I'm a big fan of stupid wrestling. All right. Yeah. I like the silly shit. I always have. I think that's why I'm such an Impact Wrestling fan, because they go to the stupidest, silliest things imaginable, and they do that stuff that no one else wants to do. That's the kind of stuff you did. That the middle. I think that's why why Tyler and I are huge fans of Puff and Pretty Ricky. They do things in your ring. The first thing I think of is that Christmas death match they put on a couple years ago.
Unreal.
One of the silliest, stupidest things I've ever seen. Yet somehow at the same time, one of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever witnessed live.
It's so good.
If you can pull off that kind of stuff, right? If you can pull off that kind of stuff, you could pull off a maskless masked man. It's all about the creativity. I love stuff like that. For people to dismiss that so quickly is weird to me, because I think that's what professional wrestling is.
Puff and Pretty Ricky are just they're amazing. They're just unbelievable. Like, they're so creative. And sometimes they'll push things, and I'm like, no, man, like, no. But the difference is if I see them push it a certain way, and it goes with any talent too. Like, I'll not be on board with something, and I'll see it in their eyes. I look at Fuerza proposed something a few months back, almost a year now, if not a year, and I was dead against it. I was like, no, man, this. I'm not doing this, and he pushed, and sure enough, like, and actually, we'll say it out here. I guess I can say this it was the Reverso coming in, and I'm like, there's no way we're doing that. There's no way.
One of the best angles you put on that year, yeah.
And we had him come in his first show, and Fuerza proposed. It was all Fuerza's idea, and we didn't know the finish of that match till, I don't know, intermission. Like, we were not set. And Jim said to me, he's like, trust him. Like, he's never pushed like this. And I finally said, yeah. And damn it, it was good. It was so good. And it worked. It worked completely. It was fantastic.
Number one, the chemistry between Fuerza and Dan is phenomenal. Like, him and Reverso, they do something really special in that ring. When I first found out, it's the biggest regret of my current, let's call it a career that I don't get paid for. My podcasting career is missing that cage match live. I wasn't there sitting there live, and watching that in IWTV. I had the same feeling watching Barrie Wrestling on IWTV than I would any other pay-per-view, because those guys put this show on in that cage that I might as well have been watching WWE or Impact or AEW, because they made me believe. They made me want to be there. we know both those guys very well at this point.
Yeah.
Dan is really one of my favorite people on the planet.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
And I'm so glad that Fuerza felt so inclined to push and push and push and show you that what could do, because sometimes you can't see what's right in front of you, right?
Yeah, you can't. I couldn't see it, and I was like, "This doesn't make any sense." But and Fuerza, you know, and a lot of the guys won't. It depends. They'll ask, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm not feeling that, man," and then they leave it. But there's times when they're like, "This is going to work." Wheeler's done it. Vertigo's, they've all done it. All the guys that have been here a while have done it, and I see it in their eyes, and like, "Okay, let's do it." Dan's fantastic. Dan will be back. It's conflicting dates, but Dan's. God, he's really good, man.
He
gives me a heart attack with that moonsault into the crowd.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And I think we ended up using that as part of the contract signing as well. You know, I think that was one of the lines we said. He is actually my first botch as a ring announcer was reversal.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was my first time meeting him because I had missed the show. I was at a bachelor party for the back to school show, which we were really bummed out about. It was our 1 year anniversary. Josh and Santino were there. I was like, and I remember hearing about, they took the belt and put it on reversal. I was like, what? This is crazy. I did not see that coming. I was hooked, right? And I met him and I was getting his information before the show to announce him. And I'm in the ring, and I announced him from Destruction Bay, Ukraine, instead of Destruction Bay, Yukon. And because I just couldn't read my writing, I just wrote it down quickly, and I was like, okay, and I glanced at my notes and said the wrong thing. And I get back to the desk, and Mike Jeffries and Jim are just howling at me like, you idiot. He's from not Ukraine, Yukon. So and I went back and apologized after the show. And he was he laughed it off. He was really cool about it, but he goes, "Yeah, I guess it's kind of tough to be a heel when you announce me from the biggest babyface country in the world right now, eh?"
They're Jim and Jeff too. Talking about Jim and Jeff, they as soon as Jim gave the hint that I'll do commentary over announcing, we were set. It's bias, and of course everyone's gonna say it. I get it. I challenge anybody to go on IWTV and find a better duo. Jim and Jeff are ridiculously good. They're ridiculously good. Their chemistry's amazing. They're funny together. There's inside jokes, but not too many that you're kind of not want to watch it because you don't get it. They're just phenomenal.
When Jim called Boris Jeff's son, I was like, I couldn't handle it.
I can't tell you. If someone said to me, "When was the last time you had a good laugh?" It was that night. We recorded that last show. The audio was a little off. It was nobody's fault. We had to record it after. But when that in that show, and Jeff says, or Mike Jeffries, and he says, my boy won. You can't hear me or see me. I'm crying. I had to take my asthma spray. I'm going in the next room. I'm dying. I am absolutely dying. And it was one of the funniest. It was ridiculous. Just the way he did it was just ridiculous.
Jeff does all these little things. Him or Jim will pop me at least 2 or 3 times. Oh, yeah. The show. There'll be times I'm trying to take a sip of water. If I just do for me, Myung Jae Lee and Van Landen, I can't talk for 3 days after I'm done announcing them. Yeah. But I'll be trying to get my voice going again, and they'll pop me right at the time when I've got water in my mouth. I'm trying not to spit all over the back row.
And I know they have something that one time they asked, I can't remember what show, I don't remember the match, but they said, it was the soccer match, right? The big soccer match we had, and they said, "Hey, have you watched that yet? Have you?" And just because they said it, I'm like, "What did they do? What did they do?" And I am not. To say that I'm not a fan of Tony Khan is a huge understatement. It's a massive understatement. And so what do they do? So, so Jim, where did this match come about? And Jim's like, well, Mike Jeffries, he goes, as many know, Sean idolizes Tony Khan. And I'm like, you bastards. You bastards. But yeah.
Jim's been so great too. He gives me these little nuggets. For that match, for instance, he was like, when they come out, he's like, you need to announce them in a British accent. And I said, what? I don't know what accent I tried to do there, but it was just so that match is and I put together a little list here, which I guess we can kind of talk about a little bit here. I put together my personal top 7 favorite Barrie wrestling matches of all time.
Let me, you know what? I just want to say this real quick because I'm going to tell this anytime someone mentions a soccer match, is that could have been one of the biggest like botches ever. Like that had a risk. That had a risk. And I will say wholeheartedly, and you ask anyone in that match, and this guy is underrated in this province, in this industry. That is the brainchild of Stratos. Without Stratos in that match, forget it. Forget it. Everyone else will do really well. They'll do their job. They'll do it good. But Stratos pulled that whole thing together, man. Like, and everybody contributed their part. But that he's something else, man. He's so good.
I was getting his information in the back before the show started, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I see you again, blah blah blah. And he was just kind of talking as we were talking. He's like, "I'm like, what are you guys doing tonight? Like this, what's a Rover match, you know?" And he's he's like, "Oh, it's like the soccer. We're gonna do all the soccer stuff." And it's like, it'd be great. Like, it'd be hilarious if we all just walked out like soccer style, like holding like kids' hands and stuff. And we're talking. I think maybe Bobby Orlando might have been around at that point. I think I'd walked over to him, and I just hear in the background, "I'm going to pitch at Shawn." And he just leaves and comes back. He's like, "We're doing the entrance."
He was great, man. He's so smart. He's so smart. Like a lot of people get credit for being smart, comedic wise, and Stratos doesn't get enough credit. He's really good.
Yeah, he popped me one time because I think he was doing work. Maybe it was Super Kicked at the time, and he was teaming with PJ Phil from YTV.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And we had PJ Phil on our show because we're big YTV marks. So like, there's our tie-in, right? Phil was cool. Yeah. He was drinking straight vodka the whole time. I think he was feeling pretty good. I think it was vodka.
That dude just bought like he just bought like 11 tickets for the second row.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
Oh, that's
great. At first I didn't get it. I saw the name and I'm like, oh yeah, this is okay, right on.
And I'd messaged Stratos because I wanted to maybe see if he wanted to tie something in. And I'm like, hey, we're doing this thing with PJ Phil. Like, do you want to send a promo or something? And he's like, I'd love to do it. I'm too busy. Just tell him I say, fuck you, Phil. And I was just like, that's amazing.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
So I've got 2 questions that I'm dying to ask Shawn, and then we can get to your list, Tyler. My first question, Shawn, is been festering in me for probably 3 years now. Listen, I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a lot going on in your shoot life, as well as a lot going on with Barrie Wrestling. And it's selfish of me to ask for you for one more thing, but I'm going to do it anyways. What are the chances we ever see a resurgence of Hustle Brand?
So Hustle Brand, the name, will probably not come back. However, the idea is...
See, I hate that just because Mike Jeffries wins. Mike Jeffries and I had a huge fight about, I love the name. He doesn't like it. I don't like it when Mike wins.
I love it. I love the name. But the original intent way back was to call it just Barrie Wrestling at Night, or like with a neon, and then I just wanted to try something because I said this before. I don't like the name Barrie Wrestling. I don't like the name of a city and I'm not big on that. Yeah. But we had to do it 9 years ago, and so I never got that opportunity to do the fun thing, which is name a promotion, like give it a really cool name. I never got the chance to do that. So I like Hustle Brand. I like the word hustle. I like I loved it, but we will. It's getting a venue, and Barrie having a venue for that. Mavericks was perfect, but nobody knows what's going on with that place. It would just be the idea. If something opened that we could do that, it would be 100% back in, like Barrie Wrestling at Night, or a different type of cool name with Barrie Wrestling Incorporated, just so people know it's us. But I love it.
Just with more of a, for those who don't know, anyone listening has never even heard of Hustle Brand. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was more of an edgier, less family friendly product, right? You had it playing at, you had it at Mavericks, which was a nightclub. And it was more, you did more. I remember watching one match you put online. I want to say it was a 4 doorway match.
It was a fatal 4 doorway match.
Right.
Hacker and Puff.
Hacker and Puff, yeah. This is the kind of cool stuff that you wouldn't see at a normal Barrie Wrestling show, because which makes sense. You have, you know, one of the cool things I love about Barrie Wrestling, my wife, I have a 5-year-old son, and he's slowly wanting to get into wrestling, but my wife's very trepidatious. And I convinced her. I said, listen, I think I want the Christmas show to be his first wrestling show. And because of my trust in Barrie Wrestling, and I dropped your name to my wife. She doesn't know you, but I still said, listen, Shawn takes so much pride in putting this family-friendly product. There's so many kids at these shows. Our kid's not going to see anything we don't want him to see at this show, which is 100%. Amazing. And then there's something cool about doing the reverse, going to a nightclub and, you know, having a little bit of blood spilled on the floor. It's cool that you get to play both those sides.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. I enjoyed it. It was, and the guys loved it. You know, I remember Vertigo was just looked around. He's like, holy crap, man, this is something else, you know, because it was a perfect venue. It was so good. So, yeah, that place opens up, we're in, but we got to wait and see what they're doing.
Mike, just make sure that if you do bring your son to the Christmas show, that Corey Stone's not there this time, because he destroyed the counted out table at the last Christmas show that he was at. So make sure he's not there.
I'm gonna get my son a bodyguard.
And if this nighttime Barrie Wrestling comes back, Barrie Wrestling After Dark, maybe count it out after dark.
No.
Come on.
No, that didn't work in Windsor. No.
Count it out after dark is basically just me on too much Jack Daniels putting on Instagram Live and going, let's talk about wrestling, somebody.
That's basically what, and you know, Iron Mike Jeffries there, his role goes from just being a commentator to making sure Jim doesn't drink too much. So like it's like a 2-role thing, right?
He might have to be on double duty that night then. I've been known to find my way around the bar pretty good too. Quick, because I do want to run down the September 9th show. I want to talk about some of the matches on it, but just real quick, I just want to talk about a bit of our history with Barrie Wrestling and some of my favorite matches that you guys could probably check out on IWTV. Barrie 400, is that the code for that, Shawn? Or is it 400 North? Barrie 400, right?
Barrie 400.
Yeah. So just quick, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. Just some fun matches to check out. From a personal standpoint, the match that I just mentioned at my number 7 is Holden Albright versus Corey Stone in the Christmas Death Match. That was just like bucket list stuff for us to have that small part in that. That was super fun. And I always like the story. Holden told us the story on the phone on our show, where they had the chain in the match, and I guess Corey had slammed it down, and it slipped out of his glove, and it hit Brad in the foot. That was a rough night for Brad, because Puff murdered him also.
Still. Yes, exactly.
A great match to check out on IWTV is the Barrie Wrestling heavyweight title match between Fuerza and Alexia Nicole.
Yeah.
Yes. Those two just tore into each other. Yeah.
Unreal.
I thought that Alexia was going to pull it off there too, because she was getting all that momentum going, and
it was great storytelling.
Those two are fantastic, and a big honorable mention to Alexia and Reverso as well. That match, Mike Jeffries said it the best. That match made me feel uncomfortable in all the right ways. That was fantastic. Of course, we can't talk about Barrie Wrestling without talking about Puff versus Pretty Ricky at my number 5 spot at their Christmas Death Match. It is on the Barrie Wrestling YouTube page. Up to that point, it was the greatest thing that I had ever seen in a wrestling ring. When Turbo Man and Jesus came out and 8 stunners, that's just gold. And Brad Myers coming back from the death. Brad Myers, by the way, can we just take a second to just shout out how incredible he is as well? Like the best
ref, the best person, the best human being, the best friend. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's definitely high on the list of people that I want to get on our show as well, because he's hilarious. His 50-50 gimmick he's doing on Instagram, I love it every single time. Number 4, check this one out as well. Von Vertigo versus Judas Icarus from a couple shows back. Man, what a way for Judas to make his name on the Ontario side. He's unreal. He's had a few matches now. Yeah, that was a great match, and I feel like that was like a love child of Vaughn, right? I think that he was like really excited about that match.
Vaughn pushed that too. That Judas was the first talent we flew in. Like, we had Joe Henry here before, but that was a partnership with Smash. But yeah, that was the first guy that I said, okay, we'll fly him in, and that was Vertigo saying, like, trust me, take the chance, like trust me, and it's opened the doors to other talent in that area that we're talking to. So yeah, he's great.
So my list is also a little different because I have chosen not to put any of Myung Jae Lee's 3-pistol championship defenses on it because we are doing that list at our live show that we're going to be doing with Myung Jae Lee, which we'll talk about. However, a match that he did have that wasn't for the 3-pistols championship was him versus Tarek.
Yes.
That match was nasty. I thought that it looked like Jay Lee's chest was eaten by a cheese grater after that.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I don't know why anybody would want to wrestle Tarek.
No, you've got right? He scares me just to walk by. Like the nicest guy on the planet, but to me though,
best guy on the planet. Nicest, yeah, you're right. Nicest guy on the planet, but man, that shot
scares the shit out of me. I told this to Jay Lee too. I said to him, I said, I think that's the match. Like he was building the momentum. And I think that's the match where the Barrie crowd like took him and like you're ours now.
Yeah.
Like that something changed after that match for Jay Lee for sure. Possibly the greatest thing I've ever seen inside of a wrestling ring is the Wild Rovers match at number 2. That's my
cheap plug too with the Rovers going this Saturday. We're gonna go for the title.
That's right.
So yes, absolutely. But that match was insane. That was a dream come true. We're putting soccer and wrestling together. I'm all in, man.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone that follows you on your social medias, we know you're a big fan of the
has probably muted me by now. Yeah.
And I do have to say though, because of you and Puff, I did watch Ted Lasso, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. What a show! At my office, at my job, right beside my wall, I have the Believe sign, and I just have a rough day. I'm like, okay, here we go, having a rough day today. And number 1, not just for this match, but in all honesty, I think it's my favorite card that Barrie Wrestling has put on from the Cream show, the cage match. I just think that was crazy. I remember I walked by Reverso shortly before the match started, and I said to him, I said, you're not going to do anything too crazy out there, are you, man? Like, be careful. And he's like, no, nothing. I don't have anything too crazy planned. And he fucking moonsaults off the top of the cage, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, dude, I love you as a human being. Be careful, like.
Yeah, it was that moonsault was just something else. That was just the match. The match, honestly, you're right. It's one of the best matches we've had. It really is. It was so flawless.
Like, I remember I was talking to Shelly before the match, and I was like, and then I was talking to Jim, and he's like, like the cage is going to be ominous for you too. Like, you're going to get in there, and it's going to feel different for you. And I remember, like, I got in the cage, and it was like I was kind of touching the side of it, and I wasn't even really trying to work. Like, I was like really just in awe of being in the cage and taken back. And I kind of looked to the back, and I looked at Shelly, and she's going, come on, let's go. Start announcing the people. We're running along. I'm like, oh, sorry. Here we go. She's the best. But
that's fantastic.
All these matches and so many great more are available on IWTV. So make sure you guys subscribe and check that out. Real quick, Sean, I know that you've been very generous with your time, but I'd love to talk about September 9th a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking so forward to this. This is a special one for us every year.
Yeah, back to school. It's special for us too. It's the first show that we were ever a part of. We're super excited. Things are going to kick off right on the pre-show because Count It Out is doing our first ever live podcast, which we are incredibly excited about. We're going to be joined by the Barrie Wrestling 3-pistols champion, Myung Jae Lee. We're going to ask him all the hard-hitting questions like, why is he so mad at Daniel Garcia and trying to get him in so much heat?
That Daniel choking him out of the restaurant.
Unbelievable, eh? Unbelievable. And speaking of Jay Lee, of course, after he's done with our podcast, hopefully you don't put him in the first match. Otherwise, he may not be able to do our podcast. So
yeah.
He's going to be defending that 3-pistols championship in a match that I cannot wait for. Millennial Falcon, Jax Williams, Robbie Cosmo, triple threat match. These guys are all incredible. Jax Williams especially has really started coming into this different level. I know he did some training out with TJ and Natty, which is awesome. Robbie was hurt a little bit last year, and he's back now, and he's rolling. Not only are these guys a great tag team, but to see these 3 men in the ring, like, this is going to be an awesome match.
Yeah, it's going to be special. And I'm a fan of everybody in it, but Myung Jae Lee, I mean, this guy, it's a matter of time, right? It's a matter of time before we're nobody's able to book him because he's working the West Coast of the US or he's working down in Tampa or something. He's special. He really is.
Yeah, you got those vibes like right off the first match, eh, Mike? When he worked Lionel, which was our first show as well. That was
yeah.
Well, that actually brings me. That actually brings me to what my last question was going to be. Let's talk about Jae Lee for a second, because there's a reason why we chose him specifically for our first live show. We do feel a connection with Jae Lee because we debuted the same show that he did. We've got a bit of a, let's call it a friendship. We talk to him every show we go to, which is great. He's one of the nicest guys in the world. But then let's put him in the ring. Somehow in that time, and only in the 2 years he's been in Barrie, he's number one, become the longest reigning Three Pistols champion of all time. Yep. He has had match of the year at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, probably.
Twice. If I'm wrong. I want to say twice.
Yeah.
So, this guy, and every show he gets popped just a little bit more from that crowd.
Yeah.
Tell me something, Shawn. Was this something gradual with you? Did you see something special in him when I believe it was Puff brought him in 2 years ago? Was this something you saw right away, or was this something every show you're like, holy shit, this guy's going to be special for Barrie?
Yeah, I got a little bit of footage from him, and then we put him in Lionel. But I tell this story too when we talk about Myung Jae was when I look back at Barrie, like we had, Daniel Garcia, Kevin Blackwood, Josh Alexander. We had all these matches. And there's no real good footage. You know what I mean? Especially, so I look at Daniel Garcia, who's in AEW, and we had that guy every show. He came in the first time, and we're like, here's my calendar. And when I was debating on getting footage and bringing Alan and his amazing team in, one of the things was I owe it to the talent in the back. They've worked hard for this. The other was to keep up the pace. Some talent are going to say, well, I like coming up, Shawn, but like this company's. They got some footage I can get out, right? So that played a part in it. But the other part, and it kind of put it all over the edge, was like I sat there and thought, I'm not going to let happen with Myung Jae Lee what happened with Daniel Garcia. Like, I want footage of Myung Jae Lee.
Yeah.
So it really was, I told him that. I think he was appreciative, but it's what put me over the edge. It's like, yeah, you know what? I got to have footage of this guy. And so there was something about him, and like you touched on, he's one of the nicest people in the world. Like, he's just a joy to have at our shows. And then you put him in the ring, and a wrestling fan looks at it, and they're like, yeah, he's gonna go further than this. He's a special talent. He's something special for sure.
Yeah, you said it's only a matter of time before we're gonna have to pay to see him. You know what I mean, and pay a lot of money to see him. And that's okay. I've made my peace with that with a lot of people on your roster. One of these days we're not going to get them every month at Barrie Wrestling. So I like that. It's all about appreciating what we have right now and appreciating being able to watch them on IWTV as many times as we want. So that's one of the best things that Barrie Wrestling has been able to do in the last 2 years. Was be able to those matches will now live in forever because of these programs.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad you brought up Alan and his crew, because the production I watch, and I have been for about 4 or 5 years now, I've watched a lot of IWTV. And again, not kissing ass, Barrie Wrestling is some of the best production out there. It's some of the best shows. It doesn't feel like, home video. And a lot of it does. A lot of it just feels like some dude with a camcorder. And maybe that's all you can afford. Maybe that's all you know what to do, and that's great. Sure. But you brought in people who know what they're doing and know what they're doing really well. Dan and Chrissy and these guys are amazing.
Yeah. It comes back to, again, like, I kind of knew some of them a little bit. Like, I met them before. Like, I talked to them a lot more, but I kind of knew Chrissy a little bit, and you kind of, but like, how weird it is that we brought in a group that not only fits what we needed professionally, but like we all love them. Like, like they'll go to the locker room sometimes. They go over to the locker room and get some food, and I try to get clean. Like, we want to be with them. Like, they fit that locker room mentality that we have, where we want good people part of the show. And Alan and his team are just, they're the best, man. They're such good people.
No, 100%. They're fantastic. They're some of the most fun people to talk to. Like they're so
Oh yeah,
welcoming again. But the pointers they give too, just like even for me in the ring, like you stand here or wait like this extra second, like I
yeah,
appreciate all that stuff as well. They're just such a big part, you know. And also give a shout
absolutely.
out to your poster guy and your graphic guy. Like, man,
Oh, Autumn. So Autumn is Autumn's our poster. Like they do the work that they're doing right now is it's ridiculous, and they've got the busiest life you've ever seen. Like and it's just amazing. It's unbelievable the posters, and I hear from the talent all the time. They're like, dude, this is amazing. I mean, we had someone doing the posters before. They were good. It was fine. This is a different look. Autumn provides a different look for us, and we're so happy they're part of the team.
well, and a couple other guys that are part of the team. This is going to be a banger of a match. Stratos and Jesse V. Jesse V's got all the momentum going. He's got,
Yeah.
Josh Alexander really had some strong words to say to him after the show. He's got the championship on his mind. And, Stratos, don't be fooled by him just because he's a funny guy putting together that Rover match, man.
Yeah.
He's dangerous in the ring, too. Like,
Very,
this is a match
very.
I think is going to surprise a lot of people and be a sleeper on the card.
Yeah, it is. And Jesse, I mean, we had a whole bunch of things lined up for the title, depending on who had it or who was going to be champ. But whoever's champ is not going to be hiding. You can't hide from Jesse much longer. Like it's going to have to happen eventually. We got to find a way to make it work.
Well, somebody who makes probably I'd say the fans just adore this man, and of course we're talking about Clay Wilson. Just
What
Mr.
a
Pop.
jackass!
What
He's
a ray of
He's such a
sunshine.
jackass.
Misunderstood.
He's I used to think he was I used to always stick up for Clay and say he was misunderstood.
Yeah.
And now
he's misunderstood because he's from Fort Erie and nobody understands him. That's how he's misunderstood.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna try to be proper and professional here because I have to be in the ring with him and he can beat the shit out of me. So Clay
true.
Wilson,
Yeah.
say what you want about his personality and his choices, and he's done some real shitty things, interrupting Hall of Fame announcements with Old School and with Mark House. Like that was terrible. I was in the ring for that one. He's a hell of a talent, though. He really is. He's fantastic in the ring, such a technical wizard. But I mean, how do you prepare for Bobby Orlando and Bobby Jr.? Like you don't.
Yeah, this match. I mean, you're taking like our building gets deafening sometimes with the boos or the cheers. And we're putting Clay Wilson, who gets booed out of that building loudly, against one of the most popular stars. Like this is a match, man. This is something else.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. Shawn, can you tell us a little bit about the tag title match for the 400 North Tag Team Championships? Got Puff and Ricky defending against some names that people, I don't know how familiar they might be with them, especially up in our area here, but Philly Marino.
Yeah, the Philly Marino experience. These guys, we Puff and Ricky said we want a tag team. We want to get us a tag team. We'll have an open challenge. And we had a lot of emails. We legit had a crap load of messages from people wanting to be in this match. But Philly Marino experience, they're busted out, man, on the East Coast, doing a lot of work with C4, and they made a strong case for it. And by strong, I mean that they don't like these guys. They don't like each other, these two teams. They've wrestled elsewhere. They don't like each other. These guys, they kind of said in their email, they're going to make a name for themselves by winning the titles and getting booked in Ontario constantly. So yeah, they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder. They're great talents, but I don't know how the fans are going to take to them. I don't think the fans are going to. I don't think the fans like anybody that goes up against Triple Dragon.
No. They the fans were kind of turning against you there for a little bit, Shawn, when you guys were having some problems.
I'm a lovable guy,
with the exception of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're a great guy, Shawn. Absolutely.
People hate greatness. I get it.
Speaking of hate, there's a big tag team grudge match that's going on here. Von Vertigo, man. The guy was it's disappointing what he's done, to say the least. Again, I'm going to try to be proper because I will be pretty close to him in the ring, and I don't want to get myself in any trouble here. Say what you want about Rashawn Husher. The guy's impressive. This is a dangerous team really together. Van Landen and Johnny DeLuca. I told Van Landen, to me, he's like the 90s version of Sting. And that he's just such a great guy, but everyone just takes advantage of him and turns on him. You know, he's had some rough luck, whether it's, you know, Cross or Husher debuting at his expense, Holden turning on him, you know, and I'm sure he's going to have one eye in the back of his head. Can he trust Johnny DeLuca? That's a big story for me going into the match, right? These guys aren't regular tag team partners, but you know, Van, he can overcome it all. He's definitely got some motivation going into this match. And when the crowd gets behind him, like there's certain people when I'm in the ring that you just feel something different. You know, Fuerza is one of those 100%. Guys. And when Van gets in there, the energy that the crowd pumps off, I think that's where it kind of gives me that extra boost with his entrance too. Is
Van's a great entrance. It's a great entrance. And Van, you're right. It's funny that you said too, because I had when I knew it was coming on, I messaged some talent, said, "Hey, I'm going on. Is there something you'd like me to do?" I did message Vertigo begrudgingly. We don't have the same relationship, obviously, with what he's doing. But I did say, you know, what do you want me to say about the match to hype it up? And all he said to me was, "Don't call us a team." And I was like, okay. I said, well, you are teaming up that night. He's like, a team implies two people. Don't call us a team. Whatever that means, I have no idea. So I'm not sure what he means by that.
Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to stay back at a distance from those guys right now because they're giving me some vibes that I'm just not sure I want to be around.
Yeah, it's a little weird. And about Van Landen too, the crowd with him, and we won't get too much into it, but that crowd, our crowd loves him in Barrie. Imagine a crowd in Aurelia. Like that would be fun.
That would be fun.
That'd be real fun.
That would be fun. Huh. Very interesting. Very interesting comments from Shawn Gibson tonight, folks. And of course, a couple matches left here to talk about. Mike, I want to get your take on this one. Women's Championship. We got Shiloh, who, you know, say what you want about her. She's kept the title. Big upset win over Taylor Rising there. I say this trying to be biased again, but I don't see how she can retain the title against Alexia Nicole. Like Alexia Nicole is on a different planet, and you know, no disrespect to Shiloh, and I know that Kyle Boone's going to be out there, but like Alexia Nicole might be one of the best talents in North America. Like I don't know anybody really that can beat her.
Yeah.
Well, to go off your first statement, you said say what you want about Shiloh. I will not say what I want to about Shiloh, because the only woman in Barrie Wrestling that scares me more than Shiloh is Shelley Weiss. So no, I'm going to keep my opinions of Shiloh to myself, and not because I'm afraid that the Kyle might hurt me, because I'm afraid Shiloh might hurt me. I'm going to keep that full to myself. With that said, hopefully this doesn't fall in her ears. I have to agree with you. It's no secret. We've said this on this show since the inception of this show, as she was one of our very first guests way back in 2020. Alexia Nicole is my favorite women's wrestler in the world. That involves indie wrestling, WWE, doesn't matter where you want to go. There's nobody that I think is a better female performer than Alexia Nicole. I'll never stop saying that. So for her going up against Shiloh, listen, could Shiloh do it? Yeah, because Shiloh's a cheater. And so is Kyle. And they're always going to find a way to cheat out that victory. But there's something that Alexia's got that I think maybe her other opponents haven't. She's got the brain. She's a smart cookie, that Alexia. And we've seen Alexia cheat once or twice in her past too. So she's not above doing that herself. I think Alexia is leaving with that title that night. 100%.
Yeah. A lot of fans have mentioned that when I talk to them. They're just convinced. I don't know how Charlotte. Yeah, this is a tough match.
Yeah, I mean, Shiloh's tough because I was in the ring with her when they tried to burn the Barrie Wrestling Heavyweight
Yeah,
Championship, and she punched me in the arm and it hurt. Like,
yeah, yeah,
she's tough,
yeah.
man.
She's a menace. She's an absolute menace, like
Yes,
for
she
sure.
is. That's
Yeah,
the perfect way to describe her. And of course,
yeah,
Kyle Boone, but again, say what you want about them, love them or hate them. They have been successful.
yeah,
They are the self-proclaimed king and queen of Barrie Wrestling, former Barrie Wrestling heavyweight champion. Shiloh wanted to be a good girlfriend after Kyle had to relinquish the title and won the
yeah,
championship in honor of him.
yeah,
Like, they're going to do everything they can by hook or crook to walk out of there with the gold. And that brings
yeah,
us to the main event. A personal favorite of ours, Mr. Holden
yeah,
Albright against I don't think I'm allowed to say his name, so maybe one of you guys will have to
yeah.
take that over because I'm not looking to get punched out. Like, I'm on thin ice with this guy already. I don't know what I did to piss off the heavyweight
Yeah.
champion.
Jim Lowe?
That's only on Canada Day when Jim didn't like me, but
No, the other elite athlete.
yeah, the other one. That's right. The other champion athlete.
Yeah, John
Both can
Atlas
throw a hell of a
is
drop kick though.
yeah. And it's funny too because I honestly like earlier tonight I got a message from Nova who said I said, hey, well, I'm trying to book things, and I had asked her a while ago. She said, I'll let you know when I'm coming to Barrie. You don't tell me when I'm coming to Barrie, which is a new attitude for her. And she
Disappointing.
last minute let me know she'll be there in the building, so she's going to be in the building now
Oh
too.
God. So I need to
So
have
yeah, John
eyes
Atlas and
everywhere.
Holden Albright. That's a war. That's a match, man. I'm excited about it. But I don't know how this goes because
Well,
that's a big tilt.
there's some history there with those guys too,
Yeah,
right? When
absolutely.
when
Yeah,
when the man who I cannot say his name was the three pistol champion, him and
yeah,
Holden had a non-finish in their match. I think they went to a time limit or a
yeah,
double count out or something like that. I
yeah,
can't remember off the top
yeah,
of my head.
But
But
yeah. And
but
that's
this is
we got unfinished business.
yeah, and then Jay
this
Lee
is
won the belt.
also
So
this is also a very new Holden, a very different Holden. This isn't the Holden we saw 2 years ago. He's got a different attitude, a little bit more business, a little bit more straightforward. This isn't the monster we used to know. I don't know what it is, but he's got something. There's something going on in here. You know what I mean? You're always seeing
Yeah,
his brain's moving when he's in there, and I don't know what the suit's all about. I don't know about what this professional thing he's going for, but you can see the gears in his brain moving, and that scares me because that's the most dangerous thing Holden Albright has. He's a big guy. He's got those big mitts, but that's the most dangerous weapon in his arsenal. And if I'm John Atlas, I'm clutching that belt really tight.
and there's two other things too that we haven't really announced. Is one is that Mark Wheeler, who's can't wrestle right now, had some
Right.
surgery. He's doing better. He just said, "I'm coming up. I need a mic." It's Wheeler, so he's earned the right. I don't know what he has to say. As well as Gabriel Fuerza has also told me he's going to be there. And I said, okay, did you need the mic? He's not telling me what he's there for, but he's there for something. So, yeah, so we've also got those two guys in the building, and we're not sure what's going on, but yeah,
I mean,
it'll be an interesting show.
and that's going to be on September the 9th, back to school 9. Tickets are already on sale for October 7th as well for Karma, I believe. Was that what we're calling it?
Karma. It's called Karma. This is why we can't have nice things. Now, I'm just saying.
Truer words have never been spoken, but
Yeah, I'm just saying the fact, like, I want to squash the rumors about this. Just because we named a show after a couple of Taylor Swift songs, the week before Brad Myers gets married, he's a Swiftie, as we all know, he's a huge Swiftie. I want to squash the rumors. That's completely coincidental. Like it's a coincidence for people to say, "Oh, you're gonna get crazy." We don't do that. We're not gonna be stupid about it. We just named a show. I think it's crazy and egotistical on his part to ask me questions.
now hypothetically, if there was some sort of a Taylor Swift tie-in, hypothetically, of course,
Hypothetically,
and that would make Brad probably pretty happy, I would assume, right? Of being the Swiftie
it would
that
probably
he is.
make him want to. Yes, I can see that.
Being so close to his wedding day, you could probably
Right.
pull like $50 out of the envelope and kind of balance it out a little bit, right?
It would be, you know what I mean, like something.
Right.
You could do something. I mean, who knows if there's a Brad's version poster or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like what? Who
you
knows?
slide,
Right? Like I don't know.
you slide that wedding card in there. It's $50 lighter.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, we gave you Taylor Swift hypothetically. You know, that's right.
I didn't want to spoil it for him, but yes, Taylor Swift's going to be at our October show. That's it. That's fine.
See, I was assuming you were alluding to the fact that you were flying in Kanye West to kick Brad out and take over refereeing that day. So
I just have this bad vision in my head that Taylor Swift might have to learn the words to shake it
oh,
off.
You did that to yourself.
You know, the things
you
I'll
put
do.
that into the universe.
I'm just saying. Let's just put that one on the back burner with the maskless luchador, okay?
Yeah,
you better hope that Jim Lowe never hears that statement.
Oh, God.
And with that said, I'm sending this to Jim Lowe right now.
Oh God! Thank God I do the editing, and you don't know how to clip things. So, well, I can definitely say, Mike, I can speak on behalf of you on this as well. We cannot wait to be back at the arena September the 9th. I had to miss the last show at the arena, and I feel like I haven't been there forever. I miss the Barrie Wrestling fans. Can't wait to get in there and do my best to announce everybody and hope we have a fun show. I can't wait to see the locker room, and I can't wait to see everything that happens inside the ring. This is a hell of a card. No surprise. I feel like Mike and I always talk, and I'm like, oh, man, this Barrie card looks really good, eh? Like this is shaping. And Mike's like, you fucking say that every week, man, every month,
every month.
Like,
yeah.
Shawn, man, you got anything you want to plug as we start to bring this thing home?
Just the September show. We've got our shows. We've actually got tickets. Some people have bought tickets. One group, more than one group, but they bought tickets up till December. We've got our shows are announced for the year. We've got the September night show. All our socials at Barrie Wrestling. I throw it on TikTok too at Barrie Wrestling. I'm not a TikToker, but it's good to just put it anywhere you can. But yeah, no, that's about it. We're stoked. We're excited. We can't wait to get this show. You're right. It feels like forever since we were all together.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So yeah, I'm looking really forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait. And of course, selfless cheap plug, right, Mike? It all starts at the pre-show, the first ever live counted out podcast. It's something that Mike and really, Mike, this has really been your vision since day one. When we first started this podcast, Mike said to me, I've always wanted to do a live podcast in a ring or in a bar. It doesn't matter. I've always wanted to do a live podcast. So, you know, dream come true coming for us. Myung Jae Lee, and we're going to talk all about that 3-Pistol Championship.
And it's awesome. Great that it's coming. It's great that it's coming to fruition at Barrie Wrestling, because it's funny. I don't think I've even told you this, Tyler. When I first came up with this idea, one of my ideas involved Barrie Wrestling. And this is before Counted Out was even a thing. This is 3 years before Counted Out. I was still part of a group called Wrestle Media, and we were shopping. I wanted to do the very first live podcast for Wrestle Media, and I knew of Barrie Wrestling because, you know, it was all over Facebook and stuff like that. I just hadn't been to a show. My ego got in the way because I was going to get hold of you, Shawn, and I wanted to do something with you so bad. My ego got in the way because I'm not going to name any names on air anyways. There was a gentleman that worked for you back in that time. Let's call it 2000, probably 17, 18. A gentleman worked for you that I did not get along with at all. He and I could not be in the same building. And for some reason, I couldn't do business, and I couldn't bring myself to go and, you know, put that aside and go and try to get work done with you. Thank God, years later, I met this guy. We have a whole new show going, and it's just so funny that the show that we're finally going to do after me dreaming about this for 6 years is going to happen at Barrie Wrestling. It was meant to be at Barrie Wrestling.
Awesome.
I truly believe that. And again, no kissing ass. Barrie Wrestling is my favorite independent promotion in Ontario, probably in the world, because, you know, I don't go anywhere else. So that makes sense.
That's awesome. That's good to hear, man. I like hearing that. And that's what this is, man. Like, I think people think too much about wrestling. You know, you should take it seriously. You got a show to put on. Yeah. But people, they don't get it. So like you guys doing this in 2 years, like hear that you guys did this 2 years ago, and you're doing this like 2 years later, and you want to do this, and just all these people living out things like, you know, I'm not looking to be the next biggest promotion, man. Like I see it now that I'm like, we got to take it seriously and try to make it like that. I do want that, but not so much that we can't let other people have fun. Like Jeff and Jim doing their commentating, having a ton of fun. You guys doing this, and just people being involved and being able to walk away and saying, "Oh, I lived a bit of a dream there. I did this, and I always wanted to get in the ring and try that."
That's firsthand for me. Like to get in the ring every month and get to be a small part of the show and be the ring announcer. Like that's something I've dreamed of for 40 years. I've been a wrestling fan every year of my life, right? So it's so much fun, but I can't picture doing it anywhere else. You know what I mean? It just feels like it feels like we've let's beat a broken drum here, but it's the family and it's home and it's just something 100%. Special that's brewing up here, and we're very proud to be a part of it. My goal is to make sure that we don't screw up this live show so we can do one with Pretty Ricky, because that guy loves 1991 WWF, and I just want to do a list with him so bad about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So that's the goal.
We love you guys, man. We think you guys are doing great. Like people come and go with podcasts. They do their podcast. They want to do their wrestling podcast, and it always turns into it just doesn't go well, right? You guys, honestly, fantastic. You guys do great work. You're bringing in guests that people wouldn't normally get to hear. You don't go too long. You don't talk. You realize that someone else is the guest. Let them You guys are fantastic, man. We love having you part of the family.
Tune in to Barrie Wrestling on September the 9th. Shawn, thank you again for your time. Mike, take us home, my friend.
On behalf of what is bound to be one of the greatest indie shows of the year, I'm going to go ahead and call Barrie Wrestling's WrestleMania Back to School 9, September 9th. Be there as our good friend Jim Lowe, our good friend, right, Tyler? Our good friend Jim Lowe.
It depends on the day, yeah.
As our good friend Jim Lowe, and so don't you dare miss it. And you have been counted out.
Cheers.